Well, thank you, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to the August 27th meeting of the Inland Coalition on Aging. The Inland Coalition on Aging is a coalition of organizations serving older adults, adults with disabilities, and caregivers. Our primary goal right now is to develop the Inland Empire Master Plan for Aging. So a lot of what you're going to hear today is regarding the Inland Empire Master Plan for Aging. We thank you for being a part of this exciting journey to develop a blueprint for government entities, elected officials, healthcare industry, social services, caregiver agency, disability advocates, all professionals who serve these populations. Hopefully, this blueprint can shine a light on the barriers, on the gaps, and the opportunities that we have to make the Inland Empire a place where everybody can age well. We're going to go ahead and get started with some key points from the last meeting. Carmen Estrada, our treasurer for the board, will be presenting that. After that, we're going to provide you with some IE MPA updates. That's the Inland Empire Master Plan for Aging updates. We have an exciting panel. I'm excited to have our two guests today. Going to be sharing some information about local housing programs, and we're just having to have a good, rich, robust conversation on housing. And then we'll talk more about the upcoming conference you don't want to miss, and then talk about the next meeting. So I'm going to hand it over to Carmen, who's going to remind us what we learned at last meeting. Carmen?
Yes, hi Ben. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So just a few key points from our last meeting. We do record all of our meetings, so if you missed it, please go onto our website at inlandaging.org, and you will have access to all the previous meetings that we've held. Last meeting, thanks again to Dakota Brown from the Wait Alliance, who did an amazing job presenting on ableism. Again, her presentation is available on our website. She touched on disability pride, also the history of the Adults with Disability Act. She spoke about ableism and different types of disabilities. Really important, she also spoke on the negative impacts of how ableism affects caregivers, adults with disabilities, and older adults. I personally really liked how she also gave us tips on how we can implement change within ourselves as well as the agencies that we work for, so that we can combat ableism. So again, if you missed our presentation or our meeting last month, this information is on our website at inlandaging.org. So feel free to log on and view the presentation. This meeting is also being recorded, and will also be available online shortly. And now for some updates on our IEMPA process. So as you know, we are working towards making the Inland Empire Master Plan on Aging. One of our goals is to make our region age and disability friendly. And so we've made some first steps towards that. We already have Board of Supervisor approval from Riverside County. So we will be submitting our application for Riverside County at AARP to be an age-friendly community. We're still waiting for our letter of support from San Bernardino County. So as soon as we get that letter, then we can say that the Inland Empire is an age-friendly community. We've also had several presentations out in the community. We did a presentation at the Big Bear APS MDT on July 25th, where we shared information about the ICA as well as the IEMPA. We conducted a presentation at the Inland Empire Disability Collaborative, Ben did, on Tuesday, August 20th, to share information on our conference. We're also doing community awareness live streams, and this is to engage our community in the process. We held our first on July 30th. That is also available on inlandaging.org website, and also on our YouTube channel. We just streamed our second episode this morning when we also spoke about housing. So that is also going to be available shortly. We're going to be doing these on a monthly basis, and we may reach out to you, our members, that have different expertise to come on the live streams with us to discuss the different topics that we're addressing. So for the first topic in July, we talked about what the IEMPA or how we're putting together this plan. This morning, we talked about housing. And so upcoming conversations, we'll talk about behavioral health, we'll talk about transportation. And so we may ask some of you to join us in those conversations. And then, of course, we have our ICA annual conference. We are looking for volunteers the day of the event. So if any of you are interested in volunteering, please send us an email at info@inlandaging.org to let us know. Also, don't forget to register. We're pretty much almost at capacity. So please, if you haven't registered for the conference, it is free to ICA members. So all of you on here on the call today, I believe you are all ICA members. If you haven't, registered as a member, you can also do that on our website. And again, our ICA second annual conference will be September 27th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. free to ICA members. If you're interested in helping us spread the word about the Inland Coalition on Aging, like Dr. Howdegi mentioned, our mission is to enhance services for caregivers, adults with disabilities, and older adults. So if you're interested in helping us spread the word to get others involved, we have several marketing tools available for all of you to use. You can find them at inlandaging.org/media. We have our brochures, we have our social media kit up there, and we also have a LinkedIn. So if you are not following us, please follow us and share our posts that we do on a weekly basis. If you or the organization you work for is interested in a presentation about the ICA and the IEMPA, please email us at info@inlandaging.org. We're happy to come out and share what we're doing, as well as how the Inland Empire Master Plan on Aging is coming together.
Thank you, Carmen. Exciting things coming up. We hope you will join us at the conference, and we'll keep sharing about that upcoming conference, and hopefully you'll join us. Today, I'm very excited to have our two guest speakers. We have with us Kristin Maithonis. I apologize, Kristin. Director. Thank you. Director of Housing Services with the Housing Authority of the County of San Bernardino. Also with us from Riverside County, we have Tanya Torner, the Deputy Director, Continuum of Care Housing and Workforce Solutions. We're going to be having a conversation on housing, so I want to welcome them. Thank you, and virtual clap for our two guests, please. I'd like to start with Kristin. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and the organization you represent today?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm the Director of Housing Services for the Housing Authority of the County of San Bernardino. I've been with the agency for a little over 4 years now, but have a very lengthy history with rental assistance programs and other types of housing programs. So the Housing Services Department at the Housing Authority is the heart of the agency. We run all of the rental assistance programs, and those are all federally funded programs. So I'm here to share information about what we're doing.
Great. Thank you, Kristin. Appreciate that. And our next speaker is Tanya Torno with Riverside County Housing and Workforce Solutions. Tanya, are you with us?
Not yet. We're still waiting.
Okay. Sorry, we may be having some technical difficulties. We will proceed, and hopefully she will join us in just a bit. But Tanya is with the Riverside County Housing and Workforce Solutions, so we look forward to having Tanya with us. But why don't we start with Kristin? Have some questions for you. What type of housing assistance does your organization provide, and are there any income requirements to receive those services?
Yeah, so we have, like I mentioned, rental assistance programs. We have a variety of these rental assistance programs. Our chief program is our Housing Choice Voucher Program. It serves around 9,800 households. And the income limit for that program is 80% of area median income. And we do have some other smaller programs. We call them special programs. They provide rental assistance to special groups. In particular, we have our Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing Voucher Program. Those are for, that program is for disabled homeless veterans, and they're referred to us from the VA. We also have Continuum of Care rental assistance. Those are referrals through the coordinated entry system. And housing for persons with AIDS, and also a mainstream program which serves non-elderly persons with disabilities. The rental assistance programs that we have are more of a homeless prevention type of tool, with the exception of a few programs like VASH, our veteran program, and the Continuum of Care grant. Our programs have waiting lists, and it takes years for folks to get served. So those are, they're not really designed to be emergency housing. But once on the program, folks with really very unstable income can get situated into an affordable situation where their housing is not constantly at risk because of changes in their income. We also have, as a housing authority, we own many units throughout the county. Some of these units are affordable at different levels, depending on the kinds of funding we received for those units. And so we have both market rate and affordable units that we own and operate.
Great, thank you. And sorry, did you touch on income requirements to receive these programs?
Yes, so for our most of our programs, it's 80% of area median income is the income limit. That's the top amount, and it's based on family size. Those change every year. For example, for a household of one person, that would currently be $57,400 per year annual income. So for a family of two, that's $65,600. But then there's income limits sometimes depending on the development and the kind of funding we received to develop that property, or one of our partners may have received to develop that property. So there could be lower income limits depending on the particular program or waiting list the individual applied for.
Thank you, appreciate that. The ICA is focused on three populations: people with disabilities, adults with disabilities, older adults, and caregivers. So I'm curious, what are some of those housing challenges that you're aware of for these populations that we're serving? Be nice for the audience here to know. What are some things that you see as barriers or challenges for older adults, adults with disabilities, and their caregivers?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've seen, I only can speak from my experience, not really from any hard data, but there just is a lack of accessible units out there that meet ADA accessibility. So there are challenges for residents with mobility issues to be able to find housing that meets their needs. So that's one observation. Another observation we see with our aging population is when they don't have support, they miss the paperwork, right? Just that we send them, that they have to recertify their eligibility every few years. They miss it, or they misplace it, or they forget to go through that recertification process, and they need support to get through that. So that happens, and we try to address that when we can see it happening, but it's not always clear to us why someone doesn't complete their recertification. We don't know, maybe that they do have some challenges with handling their affairs and getting that stuff in order. So that's one thing that I've observed. For persons with mental health disabilities, we do see that there's need of a lot of support to keep them housed. So once we get them housed, to keep them stably housed long term requires a lot of support. So we like to partner when we can to ensure that once people get housed, they stay housed.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We have several organizations here that provide support services for older adults, adults with disabilities, and caregivers. So I'm glad to hear, or not. I'm happy that they're hearing this also, that folks sometimes need additional support, right? Making sure that they're getting their paperwork returned, filling out paperwork, ensuring that they're meeting their annual responsibilities. So we have, I see, Community Access Center from Riverside County that can assist folks with that type of needs. And I see Rolling Start is also on the call. So glad to see that there's partners here. We can all partner together with the Housing Authority to ensure people can find housing, stay housed, and continue living in their home. And I also appreciate the folks who are advocates on the call also. The lack of accessible housing is something that maybe we can collectively work on, right? Identifying rental units that are accessible, possibly. Maybe we can come up with lists in your areas of where you serve and help identify those apartments that are accessible, homes that are apartments. So that way, when somebody's looking for an physically accessible place to live, we can help them with that. I'm sure that's a challenge, even in urban areas. I'm sure that's still a challenge, but we can again partner with the Housing Authority to help these folks and help them get into housing. Thank you, Kristin. So what does the Housing Authority do to create opportunities? I know that you seek funding from various sources and you have lots of different types of housing and special populations. What does the Housing Authority do to create housing opportunities?
Yeah, aside from applying for additional vouchers whenever they're being offered, we do have a development department at the Housing Authority. The Housing Authority doesn't receive funding to do development, but it's one of the things that we feel we have to do, right? There's just such a big need for low-income housing in the county, and our federally funded rental assistance programs are not enough to address that need. So our development department is always looking for acquisition and development opportunities. And we currently have a development under construction in Redlands. It's Valencia Grove Phase 2. It's a 103 unit affordable complex, and it has 1 to 4 bedrooms. We have a waiting list open for that right now. And then we are working on basically assembling the funding for a 93 unit development in San Bernardino. It'll be, if you're familiar with the area, we used to have a very large public housing complex on Baseline and Waterman. And we've been redeveloping that area. We've replaced all the units of public housing that we demolished and have also added additional units over the years. There's currently 3 developments on that site, and we're proposing to add 1 more if we can get the funding put together for that. And we've also, in the past, we've partnered with other developers to create housing opportunities through what we call project-based vouchers, where we take some of our vouchers and we actually attach it to a development on a long-term contract. Those project-based vouchers help make additional affordable housing development possible. We fill the gap in that developers' income in order to make sure that other units in the development can maintain affordability long term. Right now, we're not doing any of those partnerships because we're maxed out on our funding, unfortunately, for the voucher program. So we can't make any more commitments right now. So that I think is pretty much what the Housing Authority is trying to do and creating housing opportunities right now.
Thank you. One of the populations that we have talked about, been discussing in some of our in our housing subcommittee is those that are unhoused, those are experiencing homelessness, and what do we do to address those needs? Does your agency provide any transitional housing for those that are experiencing homelessness?
No, we provide only permanent housing. We have a couple of developments that we have constructed over the last couple of years. Actually, they were both rehabs. One is the Golden Apartments in San Bernardino, and the other is Desert Haven in Victorville. Both of those are permanent supportive housing for the unhoused population. But we are not really in the business of providing transitional or emergency shelter.
Thank you, and I think that helps us to really understand how housing works. I think there's some myths about surrounding housing that there's vouchers for everybody, and the reality is there's limited vouchers, and they're only for special populations. While the Housing Authority does provide lots of support, lots of housing for these populations that you've mentioned, there are other organizations that provide assistance for those that are unhoused, right, through various HUD funded programs. So that's good to know and understand who to go to whenever we're referring folks. So thank you for clarifying that. I see we have Jorge Zavala with Assembly Member Dr. Corey Jackson's office. Thank you, Jorge, for attending today. The question is for Kristin, but welcome conversations from everybody. Is there any housing legislation advocating for older adults, adults with disabilities, or caregivers that you're aware of?
Great question. I'm not really aware of anything. I tend to just really focus on any housing legislation, regulations and things that are coming down that affect our programs directly. So I'm not aware of anything housing related and the scope of what I do that touch on older adults and adults with disabilities and their caregivers.
Thank you. Thank you. You mentioned permanent supportive housing. I don't want to skip that. Very important piece. And I'm very familiar with Golden and the apartments in the high desert and can say from experience here, they're very, very helpful to folks who are experiencing homelessness, chronically homeless, and have multiple chronic conditions that really need that permanent supportive housing, right? Services wrapped around that person to assist them to maintain that housing and address everything else that they may need, the social services, the medical services. So great to hear that permanent supportive housing is being offered through the Housing Authority. I want to open it up to that last question. I'm curious if anybody has any information on upcoming legislation, anything that's going on at the state or county level regarding housing. Just curious if anybody has any input on that.
Hey,
I-
Dr. Jauregui. So in terms of housing, I don't have an exact update or legislation for that, but at the conference coming up over at IHP, Dr. Jackson will be going over a little bit about the $5 million that he was able to secure as chair of the subcommittee for human services. And that $5 million is going to use more specifically for the universal basic income for seniors, which from there, it just depends on how the Department of Social Services is going to be able to distribute that funds and what exact limitations they might have. But we're hoping that it will be able to be used for housing and just anything else that seniors really need. But yeah, you'll be hearing more about that from Assemblymember Jackson himself.
Oh, that's exciting, Jorge. We know that income is the biggest barrier, right, to finding affordable housing, and the affordability of housing is so important. So thank you for bringing that. And we look forward to hearing more about that at the upcoming conference. But thank you so much. Kristin, I want to thank you so much for joining us and being here and joining in this conversation. Want to just open it up to conversation with the rest of the group here, and just thank you, Kristin, for that. And I'll open it up to anybody else that wants to comment on housing, our topic for today. I see Dakota has her hand up. Hi, Dakota. Thank you for joining us.
Hi,
Oh, I
Nancy.
apologize. If we could give Kristin a round of virtual applause. Thank you, Kristin. And then we'll turn the focus over to our guest with us today. Thank you, Kristin, again. Sorry,
Just
Dakota.
a quick question. My name's Nancy Stevens. Sorry, I'm a long-term care advocate, long-term care reform advocate and resident nursing home resident advocate. I'm just wondering, has the Housing Authority partnered with or applied for grants at the Chan Zuckerberg Foundation? They've got loads of money for housing initiatives and programs for anywhere here in the state of California.
I'm not familiar with that, but definitely going to look into it.
Good.
Thank you.
Do you mind typing that in the chat? Please, the name of that foundation for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Will, I see your hand up. Will, did you have a question for us or a comment?
No, I raised my hand by mistake. I was responding.
No worries. Any other questions or comments on housing in general?
So Don Smith did put in the chat that SB 37 is currently out. It's an Older Adults and Adults with Disability Housing Stability Act. So from what I understand, that bill has made it out of the suspense file and is continuing to the legislative process. And this would allow some funding for housing programs, for housing assistance. And so hopefully that comes through so that we can have, access to more funds for these types of programs. So I would say that this would be like for transitional assistance, I believe. And then he also put AB 2498, the California Housing Security Act. Don, you're welcome to share any other information you have on those two.
Yes, I think both of those are in appropriations in their respective houses right now, so we'll see where they go. The SB 37 actually establishes a pilot program, so that's only going to go to like 5 communities, I believe, if that does get some funding. But the larger one, the Housing Security Act, has the potential to be a larger program, which to create funding for counties to establish housing subsidy programs for those most in need. That's broader than just older adults. But anyway, both of those are promising opportunities for pots of dollars, create desperately needed housing subsidy funding.
Thank you, Don, for sharing that. Appreciate it. It's important that we're familiar with what's going on with the state, so hopefully we can get involved not only individually, but also collectively as an organization. So thank you for sharing. Lisa, I see your hand up.
Good morning, everybody. Lisa Castellone. I'm with Grid Alternatives, the state-funded nonprofit renewable energy organization. And just want to share that as you're looking at housing, developing housing, building housing, rehabbing, and dealing with especially seniors and disability folks that are on disability, is to really consider the state funding the DAC-SASH program. Grid is the sole program manager of DAC-SASH, where we have funding to bring in the solar systems for no cost for those families who are income eligible and in disadvantaged communities. And we have grant writing teams where we can partner. So if the county is developing housing and it's required to have that solar on it, and you know there's going to be income qualified families moving into those, potentially we could collaborate and utilize some of the DAX-ASH funding to help pay for and offset those costs with solar for new housing. And then for anybody who's already helping serve families who are in their homes already, we also have that available. And I added Victoria's information to the chat, who is the community development person here for our regional office. This is a state funded program, and we do free, no cost, really no cost solar for folks. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm wondering if there's any other organizations that provide housing services, not necessarily housing people, but maybe you provide a support service that helps people to get house or look for housing, or housing list or housing advocacy. Is there anybody that would like to share about those services?
Hey
Lisa
there.
Hayes,
Hey.
Executive Director of Rolling Star. Thank you for joining us, Lisa.
Hey, Dr. Harvey. Howdy, it's good to see you. Yeah, Rolling Start we have a housing coordinator. We have a team of people that are independent living specialists that will help, fill out applications. And we also have the CalAIM program where we do a ton of home mods. So, Kristin, I was like thinking when you were talking about one of the challenges that you might have are people with physical disabilities needing home modifications. We do a lot of door widening, bathroom conversions, ramps, through a lot of the through the generous funding through the CalAIM program, through IHP, but we also have a community living fund that we access. And we do, typically around the average home modification runs about $12,500 just to help somebody make a home accessible for somebody. And we've done, gosh, I know I saw Delia on the call, well over 100 in the last year, home modifications.
Wow.
So I know it's amazing. And so we're happy to, if you need some assistance there, we're happy to help.
And Lisa, your website address?
www.rollingstart.com.
Rollingstart.com, housing services. Thank you so much, Lisa. Anybody
Ben,
else?
Ben,
Yes.
this is so yeah, Zoom is kicking me off every time I click a button. I appreciate hearing about CalAIM and the senior the opportunity for seniors to get these solar upgrades. But I do want to bring it to everybody's attention that there is a tremendous amount of fraud in this area. So when you're helping seniors, it's important to understand there are a lot of parasitic organizations, and Good Leap is central to the funding for this. And I will give you the most extreme example that we've recently seen. So when you're helping seniors, please have them look at this. There was one senior, 68 years old, was talked into a $75,000 solar project that at 12.99% interest, that the life of the loan was $223,000. So if you forecast that out, they would have to have a electric bill of $1,000 a month for 20 years to even make that pencil. So it's important that these are awesome programs that are really just. And oh, by the way, those solar, what we're finding is the panels are installed. There's a UCC1. There is no PTO with Edison. They're not even hooked up to the electrical panel. They're literally just placed on the roof. So there are a lot of that. And we work with APS here in Riverside County. I'm sure that it's no different in San Bernardino. So we're not helping seniors when that is happening. So if you're dealing directly with seniors, if you're at APS or if you're an organization, please look at that, talk to it. If you're talking with seniors, put that out, because well, we can work with other organizations. We work with HERA to try and assist. What we're finding in Riverside County is we're a target-rich environment, and our county to the north of us is no different. So
Ernie, remind us, what organization are you with?
Riverside Legal Aid.
Thank you.
And this is Lisa. Can I just say,
Of course.
all of our services are free. We don't charge our consumers anything. So people with disabilities and seniors that need these home modifications or the services that we offer, they're 100% free. So just wanted to make sure you know.
And Lisa, my comment is not directed at your organization. What is happening is people are coming out, door knocking, saying essentially they're there to provide the services that you do, Lisa. And then what happens is they are given a tablet, and with DocuSign, we could tell from the DocuSign records, it's a 26 to 30 page contract. And I think the record is 41 seconds. Now we've got individuals that can barely use a Cricket phone, and they're just told to click here, click here, click here, because they're told it's your program or programs like yours that are free. And then they're not going to get a bill. In one instance, the gentleman stopped paying Edison for a year because he believed that it was a program like yours. So in no way am I intending to talk bad or throw shade on your programs, but it's important to know that there are people out there impersonating your program. And when we're here to help seniors, you know, I'm putting out the word. I don't know how that gets extended from this, but we have to, because what we're finding is they're not getting the services that you provide. And then there's a tremendous amount of distrust. And then they've literally got a $75,000, is probably worth 20, solar system that doesn't even work. And that's the worst part of it. And we've seen other companies go out. There is one company that put $700,000. Now, if you can imagine that, $700,000 worth of improvements on a home that don't even get him to where he needs to go. So sorry to monopolize this, but it's huge, because there are people riding on your coattails telling our seniors that they're there to help, and they're doing anything but help.
Thank you, Ernie. I appreciate that. Elizabeth, I see your hand up.
Yeah. So in alignment with our discussion that we've been having about like home modifications, whether it be solar, whether it be door widening and those sorts of things, I helped facilitate and do the focus groups for the Master Plan of Aging Needs Assessment. And some of the things that came up that were needed fall in strange categories. For example, like somebody needed support with their swamp cooler or maintaining their air conditioning, and it was out of their price range to maintain that to keep their home livable, but because of the location that they were living in, they very much needed like the basic upkeep of this. And so I'm curious if anybody here in the housing domain, because there's weird overlap sometimes, has knowledge of support programs for people who maybe need help maintaining their AC or their swamp coolers so they can keep their home livable and stay in their home, especially in the area and the region. It's very hot.
Great question. That comes up regularly. Anybody have a resource for swamp coolers, fans, air conditioning?
Delia Lopez.
We don't mean to monopolize the conversation. I see Delia's hand. Go ahead, Delia.
No, I was just gonna say that we have the fortune to be able to help some consumers with, especially with those services. So that if they have IHP is actually approving home mods only to improve the AC that they have the system, or to provide a mini split. Although the money is not, sometimes it becomes an issue, but like Lisa said, we have the other additional funding that we can always access to if we have the need to. But yeah, sure, you can send them our way and we can help them start the process. And if they don't have IHP, then we'll see if it's possible to do it with the little funding that we have.
Thank you, Delia. Antonia, I see your hand up.
Can I just add the the funding amount is typically for that grant is like $5,000. So it's got to be under that. And there are some requirements, like they have to need assistance with at least 2 activities of daily living, and they have to be under 300% of the federal poverty level. So there is some requirements for that book pot of money, but it is available if for those exactly those situations.
rollingstart.com.
Yes, and Rolling
Antonia.
Star is a independent living center. And there's also community access that is the independent living center for Riverside County. So maybe a representative from either Lisa could maybe talk a little bit more about what independent living centers are.
I also
Sure.
see Larry Grable, and Larry is a director for the
Yeah.
center in Claremont also. So we have a couple of folks with that background. So yes, Lisa, really quick, please.
Centers for Independent Living serve people with disabilities and older adults. The only qualification really is that you have to identify as an individual with a disability. Most of our programs don't require medical documentation, except some of them like CalAIM, as well as the Community Living Fund, where you need some at least 2 need assistance with at least 2 activities of daily living. And there's in this area, Community Access Center serves Riverside, Rolling Start serves San Bernardino, and Larry Grable Skill serves Claremont area. And he also does some of the helps out with folks on the West End. So we're happy to help anytime we can.
Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate that. We have time for just 2 more questions, then we'll have to move on. But thank you, Antonia. Yes.
Wait, this is Antonia. I haven't spoken yet.
Antonia. Yes.
Okay,
You're next.
so we're the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation. We regulate the PACE solar program. I don't know how many communities in the Inland Empire are still using it. I know in LA County, the PACE solar program, in case you're not familiar, is a well-intentioned program where people can finance solar improvements to their homes, and it attaches the payments to their property taxes. There is rampant fraud with it. Counties like LA County and other counties just said, never mind, not for us. The county assessors just shut it down because there were so many people that, unfortunately, it was, again, well-intentioned, but it was written with holes big enough to drive a truck through. So we regulate that. We regulate the financing. The Contract State License Board regulates the contractors who do the work. If you have any questions, let us know. There's a new solar handbook coming out by the PUC in multiple languages. One does need to be very careful. Like one of the speakers from Legal Aid said earlier, they'll just slam a tablet in front of you and say, sign here. Next thing you know, and tell the state it's all done, and it's untrue. Unfortunately, a lot of consumers are plain obedient, and they do what the contractors tell them, and the contractors run off with tens of thousands of dollars of money. So
this is definitely a big topic for discussion, but unfortunately, I would like to make sure that we get to our housing related topic, if that's okay. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody regarding housing, since we have Kristin here from the Housing Authority and others who are interested in this topic. So thank you, Antonia. Last question, I apologize, we will have to end here.
Okay, so I would like to dovetail off what Antonia said. PACE, we are part of the California Low Income Consumer Coalition, and one of our members takes great pride in pushing to get rid of PACE. No senior should ever do a PACE contract, period. It is fraught with fraud. And once it triggers Prop 13 on their taxes, it knocks them into a catastrophic loss of their home. So you had people going from $100 a month in taxes to $1,200 a month. And we could talk for weeks on how it is. No senior should ever do a PACE contract. I will acknowledge there may be 2% of the time that it may be beneficial, but 98% of the time, they're going to lose their home or run into catastrophic financial. It is catastrophic.
Ernie,
so
what is your website?
I will dovetail on what she says, but
Ernie, what's your website?
what is our Riverside?
Yes.
RiversideLegalAid.com.
RiversideLegalAid.com, folks. If folks have more questions about that, thank you. I appreciate that.
.org.
.org.
Sorry. RiversideLegalAid.org.
Riverside Legal Aid.
I will put my email in here. Anyone wants to talk to me, but if you have a senior, they should run the other way.
Thank you, Ernie.
Grid
Appreciate it.
alternatives.
Thank you, everyone. We do have to move on, finish our agenda here. So I'm going to turn it back to Carbon.
Sure.
Back to you.
Yes, so there are a few, just point out some of the other resources that Dakota put it on the chat about weatherization programs, community action partnership, and then also the Einstein project. So all great resources. Thank you everybody for sharing. And then thank you also, Lisa, Antonia, Ernie, everybody for, you know, we don't get the opportunity a lot of times in these meetings to talk. And so maybe we do more of that, right? Share resources and connect. Since, you know, we're all here with the same purpose of trying to enhance services for our seniors, adults with disabilities, and caregivers. And so the only other update that I believe that we have is the conference. Am I correct? Oh, before that, there will be no meeting, no ICA meeting next month in September because of the conference. And so our conference is going to be September 27th. If you haven't registered, you can take a picture of the QR code and register. It is free for ICA members. So all of you on here, I know are ICA members. It's going to be a great program. We're going to be having a discussion on equity by some key speakers, Dr. Donna Benton, Andy Amparato, I believe, Ben. We also have
Andy Amparato is the Executive Director of Disability Rights California.
Yes. And then we're also going to be having an update on the IEMPA. We're going to be sharing the framework of the project and our chairs of each of the different domains we've been working on, which includes housing, behavioral health, caregiving, Alzheimer's, and other dementias, as well as transportation. We're going to be sharing the main objectives. And so it's important for all of you that attend, because we were going to be seeking feedback to make sure we're on the right track in putting this plan together. So if you have not registered, please register now here by scanning the QR code, September 27th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then again, there is no ICA meeting next month. We will have the next meeting on October. Can you put up that slide, please? The next slide. October 22nd is going to be our next ICA meeting. So you're going to be receiving some email reminders about that. And that's again because we're having our conference on the 27th. You can put it back on the other slide just in case people want to still scan the QR code to attend the conference.
So just so you know, when you go to register, it's going to ask you, one, if you're a member, because you can attend for free when you're a member. You can check that if you're already registered as a member of the ICA. Now, remember, just because you get these notifications for these these meetings does not mean you have registered as a member. So please make sure you know the difference. You can also choose the second option, which is I'm not a member, but I want to join and attend for free. And that gets you in for free also. So in case you're wondering, you can still attend the conference for free. If you don't want to join the ICA and you want to pay that $75, hey, we'll take the money. But it's just easier for all of us if you just check, you know, you're a member, because most of you, I believe, are, but some of you can check that other box, become a member, and then you get to attend for free. So hopefully we'll see you there. We have phenomenal speakers. I'm just so thrilled and excited for the folks that we have coming from all over California and Sacramento, San Francisco, San Diego, Los Angeles, a phenomenal lineup. And I just want to thank also our sponsors. We've gotten a tremendous support this year from sponsors. Last year we didn't ask for sponsors. This year we did, and we've gotten some phenomenal support from our sponsors. I wish I had the list here, but I don't. But we'll definitely send out an email to thank them for their sponsorship. But Carmen, anything else?
No, I believe that's it.
Great. Next slide, please. Work groups. Remember, we have some phenomenal work groups. If you're interested in any one of these, send us an email, info@inlandaging.org, and we can connect you to a work group. We have a behavioral health work group. We have a transportation work group, caregiving and Alzheimer's work group, and a housing work group. And I just want to point out the leaders of these work groups because we've got some subject matter experts leading these conversations. I welcome your participation in any one of those. We have Dr. Sadewater from AgeWise, Dr. Belfort Saldana from San Bernardino County Department of Behavioral Health, and Tony Ortego, who's with us today. Hi, Tony, with Riverside University Health Systems Behavioral Health Department, leading that behavioral health committee. Transportation, Heather Menninger with Alma Transit Planning. Caregiving Alzheimer's, Carmen Estrada leads that along with Susan Holland. And then the housing subcommittee, Tanya and myself lead that. So hopefully you'll join us. Next slide. Our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, October 22nd. We will not see you in September because we will see you at the conference. Register today. You don't want to miss that. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank our guest speaker today, Kristin. Thank you so much with the Housing Authority of County San Bernardino. Appreciate your participation. Everybody who shared in the conversation today. Thank you for all you are doing to make sure that older adults, adults with disabilities, and caregivers can age well in the Inland Empire.